Scooby's Night with a Frozen Fright is an episode from the second season of Where Are You? About a 2-million-year-old caveman terrorizing Scooby and his friends. This episode features the following: a monster arriving by ship, a monster interrupting leisure time, investigating a wrecked and deserted research lab, abducted scientists, destroyed lines of communication, finding abandoned clothing, finding the leftover ice from a thawed-out monster, someone in danger from ice because of a locked door, breaking through a locked door, the remains of a monster, the bad guy at the end is a scientist who wears glasses. This episode of Scooby-Doo is John Carpenter's The Thing. Most watching this video probably already know plenty about Scooby-Doo, but for those who haven't watched The Thing, here be spoilers! To summarize, The Thing is a 1982 horror film directed by John Carpenter about a group of scientists and support crew infiltrated by a shape-shifting alien creature while trapped at Outpost 31, a remote Antarctic research base. This film features the following: a monster arriving by ship, a monster interrupting leisure time, investigating a wrecked and deserted research lab, abducted scientists, destroyed lines of communication, finding abandoned clothing, finding the leftover ice from a thawed-out monster, someone in danger from ice because of a locked door, breaking through a locked door, the remains of a monster. The bad guy at the end is a scientist who wears glasses. Though a box office failure upon release and not well liked by most critics at the time, The Thing has since become recognized as one of John Carpenter's best films, famous for its over-the-top scenes of body horror, as well as being a study of the psychological effects of paranoia in a survival situation. Scooby-Doo is a media franchise that began a little over a decade earlier about a group of kids who often find themselves embroiled in supernaturally themed mysteries, some of which involve alien creatures. And just like The Thing, it took years for the Scooby Gang to take their place as significant pop culture icons, and most of their series and films feature them trapped in scary survival situations. While this one episode of Where Are You happens to match John Carpenter's film the most, the similarities between The Thing and the Scooby-Doo franchise as a whole don't stop there. Most iterations of Scooby-Doo center on the Big Five: Scooby, Shaggy, Fred, Daphne, and Velma, and many of the crew at Outpost 31 share a lot in common with members of the Scooby Gang. McCready is obviously Fred. While Gary may be the official commander, when the Scooby snacks hit the fan, most of the rest of the camp immediately defers to Mac as the de facto leader. McCready is stuck trying to cope in a survival situation with a mixed group of individuals that run the gamut from dependable to annoying. Fred, too, is a no-nonsense leader who often finds himself in a bad situation trying to keep things together with one dependable friend and 3 screw-ups.
I started a joke.
And both Fred and McCready know when to split up, can come up with a plan on the fly, and even set traps. The Thing features 2 Velma equivalents, Blair and Fuchs. Both are scholarly and assist McCready in trying to solve the mystery. However, Blair is more like Velma in that respect, because while Fuchs is desperate to tell everything to McCready, Blair keeps what he knows a secret, just like how Velma likes to wait until the bad guy is unmasked before smugly explaining their scheme. Fuchs wears a sweater like Velma, and just like the one she wears, Blair is almost as orange. He's not exactly in the best physical condition either, compared to most of the rest of the staff. And like Velma, Blair and Fuchs also wear glasses.
My glasses! I can't see without them! They should be around here somewhere.
What I'm about to say is me being as kind as I can be. Classic Daphne was not a very good character. She did become more compelling and better rounded in later series and films when given more to do, but in her original incarnation, Daphne was often little more than the middle child bridging the gap between the serious Fred and Velma and the goofy Shaggy and Scooby. Her role in a lot of the early episodes was to be dumb, mess up Fred's plans, and get caught by the bad guys. Therefore, two characters in The Thing fit the role of Daphne: Knowles and Windows. Thinking MacReady was the Thing, Knowles almost kills him by abandoning him in a snowstorm. He also messed up MacReady's plan at the end by wandering off and dying, forcing Mac to improvise, just like how most episodes of Scooby-Doo end with Fred's trap getting screwed up, but the gang still managed to win through bungling. As for Windows, while it's tempting to lump him in with Shaggy for being a coward, he also managed to mess up MacReady's plan during the blood test by freezing up instead of shooting the transformed Palmer. And finally, both Knowles and Windows get caught by the monster. Danger-prone Windows does it again. Palmer, of course, is clearly the Shaggy of Outpost 31. First of all, he gets no respect from the others.
Doc, I'll give you the lift. No problem. Forget it, Palmer. Hey, thanks for thinking about it, though.
Palmer is also the resident stoner and provides much of the comedic relief. As a conspiracy theorist, his explanations aren't taken seriously by the rest of the crew, just like how Fred, Daphne, and Velma often won't believe Shaggy when he says he saw a ghost. And just as Shaggy is the resident slacker of the Scooby Gang, Palmer is never seen doing any actual work in the film and is usually shown just sitting around goofing off or watching television. As for Scooby, Clark is the obvious analog. While not as lovable as our favorite talking canine, Clark's vocabulary is almost as limited. He generally doesn't do much apart from following someone else's orders, like how Scooby does whatever Shaggy says. As the kennel master, Clark also identifies more with dogs than people. It could also be said that the Norwegian sled dog from the beginning of the film is a lot like Scooby, since both animals are, dogs, and neither are typical examples of their species. The Thing itself can be said to share a lot in common with Scooby and Shaggy, as those two are also well known for eating everything in sight and donning the occasional disguise to hide from whatever is chasing them. Apart from the Scooby Gang, other Outpost 31 personnel fit some common Scooby-Doo supporting character types. Childs, the station's mechanic, is combative and not trusted by the rest of the crew due to his temper. He's quick to assign blame and the first to jump to conclusions. In Scooby terms, he's the cantankerous character demanding the gang stay away from his farm or who accuses innocent people of being the monster. Gary is the authority figure that fits the profile of the typical Scooby-Doo sheriff or other law enforcement officer who arrives at the end to take the villain into custody after they've been unmasked. Except cops in Scooby-Doo don't get eaten by Velma. Well, maybe that's not always true. Finally, Norris, Copper, and Bennings are the random, non-recurring Scooby-Doo characters who are often included just to pad out an episode while still occasionally being the bad guy. The story structure of The Thing mirrors that of a typical Where Are You episode. Just as most start by establishing the monster of the week, The Thing also opens with a scene featuring the alien creature, although we don't know what that sled dog is at the time. The residents of Outpost 31 are engaged in leisure activity before being interrupted by the monster, much like how the gang is often dancing or sitting in a malt shop or enjoying the beach before the bad guy makes an appearance. Once in the camp, The Thing casually watches the station personnel, much like how Scooby villains secretly scope out the meddling kids. There's even a moment where The Thing briefly interacts with a future victim. Once The Thing sheds its dog skin, MacReady and the rest panic, just like how the Scooby Gang scatter once the monster starts chasing them. The Thing hides after the attack, allowing MacReady and Blair to look for clues as to what's going on, just like how Fred and Velma usually do the same thing once they escape their monster. There's even a spooky location for them to search, like practically every episode of Scooby-Doo. And just like many Scooby episodes, The Thing also has red herrings, such as the crew's suspicions about Clark, or how someone tried to frame McCready with a torn uniform, similar to how Dr. Jekyll tried to frame his maid with a torn newspaper article. The climax of the film is when they discover how the Blair Thing had been building a spaceship to escape, forcing Mac and the rest to lay explosives to kill the shapeshifter once and for all, just like how Fred often sets a trap after they figure out the villain's plot. And like most episodes of Scooby-Doo, The Thing ends with a laugh. Outpost 31 is a research base set in the Antarctic, and several Scooby episodes were set in similar scientific or cold weather locations, including the aforementioned Scooby's Night with a Frozen Fright, as well as That Snow Ghost and A Scary Night with a Snow Beast Fright. One of the Scooby direct-to-video releases, Moon Monster Madness, centered on an extraterrestrial creature, and some episodes featured space monsters, like a creepy tangle in the Bermuda Triangle and spooky space kook. Arguably, to 5-year-old me, the space kook was just as frightening as anything featured in The Thing. There are times when Scooby villains transformed innocent people into monsters or other creatures, like make a beeline away from that feline when Daphne's aunt turns into a cat creature, the Hatfield family turning into frogs in the Ozark Witch Switch, or that time on What's New Scooby-Doo when it was thought that Shaggy was transforming into a kaiju. Frankencreepy even approaches mild body horror when Daphne appears to become morbidly obese. And as bloody and disgusting as the creature effects are in The Thing, they don't come close to the ick factor of that episode of Mystery Incorporated where Shaggy and Daphne make out. Arguably, the central theme to The Thing would be the effects of paranoia in an isolated setting, which fits almost every Scooby-Doo episode to a T. The residents of Outpost 31 were stranded far from help, their only means of escape taken from them by disabled helicopters, dead sled dogs, and busted radio equipment. Likewise, the Scooby Gang is often one flat tire, empty gas tank, or beached boat away from civilization. And just as McCready and the rest were pushed to the brink, trying to uncover who among them was The Thing, each knowing that what looked like a man next to them could be a monster waiting for the right moment to strike, Fred and his gang are often desperate to figure out the identity of the monster intent on catching them. And that was my take about a popular show from decades past, about a group of people and their canine companion who get wrapped up in a mystery, follow clues, get chased by a monster, figure out who the bad guy is, and end everything with a laugh. Except cops in Scooby-Doo don't get eaten by Velma. I'm proud of that one. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please help this channel grow by clicking like and subscribe and checking out my other content. It's not all Scooby-Doo, but there's still a lot of Scooby-Doo.